Just take this small, quiet space with me. I want to talk to you, not to a crowd, not to an audience, you. The woman who's been carrying more than she ever tells. The woman who's learned to be strong even on the days she didn't want to be. Are you sitting somewhere alone right now? Or maybe you're just letting the day settle in your bones. Either way, come closer. Let me be here with you for a minute. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to perform anything. Just be here. I've been wanting to tell you something, and it matters more than you think. You know, there's a certain kind of woman the world stops seeing after a while. Not because she's less, but because she's lived too deeply for the shallow way people look. She becomes quiet, steady, almost invisible, not because she disappears, but because most people don't know how to recognize a woman who's grown into herself, a woman whose strength is quiet, a woman who doesn't need to announce her worth to anyone. But I do. I see you. I see the years that shaped you, softened you, sharpened you. I see the traces of everything you've survived, losses, responsibilities, the moments you held a family together when no one noticed the way your hands shook afterward. I see the way you still show up for the people you love, even when they forget to ask how you're doing. So, stay with me. Because if you've ever felt overlooked, or like your presence slips between the cracks, or like life moved too fast, and somehow left you standing still, I want you to hear this from a man who isn't going anywhere. You are not invisible. Not to me. Let the world rush. Let people be distracted. Let the younger ones chase their chaos. Right now, in this moment, I'm choosing to slow everything down just so I can look at you without turning away. I want you to feel what it's like to be truly seen again. Not for what you do, not for what you used to be, but for the woman sitting here, right now, with all her depth, all her quiet fire, all her unspoken stories. And, if you're willing to stay a little longer, I want to tell you what pulls me toward a woman like you. Because there's something you carry, something you may not realize, has been drawing me in from the very beginning. Don't go yet. This is where it gets real. Come closer. I don't want you to miss this. There's something about you that's been pulling me in from the moment I noticed you. Not the way people talk about beauty, not the surface, not the easy things. What draws me in is the way your presence feels like someone who has lived, truly lived. That kind of woman stands out to me now more than anything else ever could. A woman untouched by life might look flawless, but she hasn't grown her depth yet. You have. You've earned every soft edge and every strong line in your character. You've earned that quiet confidence, the one you don't even notice anymore. It's in the way you sit, the way you breathe, the way you listen, like you're holding someone's truth gently in your hands. There's something extraordinary in that. You don't try to impress. You don't rush to speak. You don't pretend to be lighter or younger, or anything other than what you are. And that realness, God, that's rare. It's grounding. It's magnetic in a way that has nothing to do with age, and everything to do with essence. Let me tell you what I see when I look at you. I see someone who has walked through storms without anyone to shelter her, yet she still meets life with a softness she never lost. I see a woman who doesn't need the world's validation because she learned the hard way that her worth was never up for debate. I see the lines around your eyes, not as reminders of time, but as reminders of every moment you cared deeply enough to feel. That alone is more attractive to me than anything youth could offer. And maybe no one has told you this recently, or maybe no one ever had the nerve to say it plainly, but I am drawn to the weight of your story. To the way you survived things that would have broken a quieter soul, to the way you still choose kindness even when life didn't return it, to the way you speak with intention, not impulse. There's a steadiness in you that calls to the steadiness in me, a maturity that feels like home, a realness I can rest in. You don't know how rare that is, do you? You think the world only looks for youth, but a man who has truly lived, really lived, wants something different. He wants a woman who mirrors what life taught him, patience, resilience, quiet, intensity. And that's what you carry. Whether you see it or not, that's what's been pulling me toward you, inch by inch, thought by thought, moment by moment. And it's why I want you to stay with me as I tell you something else, something deeper, because there's a part of your story you've hidden, maybe even from yourself, and I see it clearly. Don't pull away now. The next part matters even more. Stay right here with me. I'm not finished seeing you yet. When I look at you, I don't just see the strength people praise, the visible parts, the admirable parts. I see the kind of strength no one ever applauded because they never even knew it existed. I see the nights you held yourself together when you wanted to fall apart. I see the mornings you got up anyway, because someone needed you and you didn't know how to choose yourself first. I see the years you lived in quiet responsibility. The sacrifices that blended into the background because you didn't make them dramatic. Most people only notice loud suffering. They miss the silent kind, the one you carried for so long that it became muscle memory. But I see it. I see the weight you've worn on your shoulders, not because you wanted to, but because life gave you no other option. And I know the strength you built wasn't glamorous. It was necessary. You didn't choose resilience as an identity. You chose it as survival. There are parts of your story you don't talk about because you learned early that being vulnerable didn't guarantee being understood. You learned to keep the deepest pieces of yourself quiet. You learned to solve everything alone because asking for help felt like adding one more burden to people already looking the other way. I see that, and I see how heavy that silence became. But here's what you may not realize. Your silence didn't make you invisible. It made you profound. The world doesn't look closely enough to notice a woman who isn't performing her pain. But I do. I see the woman who kept going, even when no one thanked her. The woman who didn't ask for praise because she understood life, doesn't hand it out fairly. The woman who held her family, her job, her responsibilities, her heartbreak, held them all like they were fragile, even when she wasn't sure she could hold herself. And if you're wondering how I know, it's in your eyes. Not sadness, depth. Depth that only forms after you've walked through fire and came out softer, not harder. Depth that tells me you've been the strong one for too long. Depth that makes me want to sit closer, slow down, and speak to you in a way no one has spoken to you in years. So, stay. Because what I'm about to tell you next about the fears you carry, the ones you think secretly disqualify you from love, those aren't truths. They're stories you were forced to believe. And I want to show you why they're not yours to carry anymore. Don't go yet. This part might change the way you see yourself. Stay close to me for a moment longer. I can feel the way your heart tightens whenever conversation brushes near the things you don't like to admit out loud. You've carried certain fears for so long they've started to feel like facts. And I can sense them right here, in the quiet between your breaths, in the way you look down for half a second when something touches too deeply. You don't have to hide any of that from me. I know the thoughts that echo through your mind at night, the ones you never say because you don't want to sound insecure or foolish. The ones that whisper, maybe I'm too old, maybe men don't look at women my age, maybe my time passed while I was busy holding everyone else's world together. I've heard those unspoken sentences long before you ever let them reach the air. But let me tell you something with a calm certainty that I hope reaches right into the part of you that's forgotten how to receive softness. Those fears aren't truths. They're memories, they're bruises. They're projections of people who didn't know how to love someone with your depth, and you believed them because you had no one there to offer you another version of the story. Look at me, really look at me. Do I seem like a man who's drawn to superficial things? Do I strike you as someone who would be fulfilled by a hollow connection? I'm not here because of what you used to be, or what you think you should be. I'm here because the woman in front of me now carries a fullness that only comes from surviving and staying soft. You think your best chapter's already happened. But I see something else entirely. I see the version of you that's just now stepping into her real beauty, the beauty that doesn't need approval, that doesn't burn itself out trying to stay young, that doesn't perform to be chosen. Youth may shine brightly for a moment, but it flickers. What you carry is something deeper, quieter, steadier, something a man my age is drawn to with an honesty he doesn't even try to hide. And I know why you fear being overlooked. Because for years, you were the backbone, the steady one, the problem solver, the safe place for others. You were essential, but rarely cherished. Necessary, but rarely held. You were seen for what you could do, but never fully seen for who you were. And when a woman lives like that long enough, she starts believing she's only valuable when she's giving, never when she's receiving. But that belief ends here. Come closer. Let me say this to the part of you that's still bracing for disappointment. There is nothing about your age that diminishes your worth. Not to me. Not to a man who understands life. Not to someone who isn't intimidated by a woman who knows herself. What you fear is the very thing that draws me in. And I want to show you exactly how I feel when I look at you, because the truth is softer, deeper, and far more real than anything you've been telling yourself. Stay with me. I'm not done seeing you yet. When I look at you, something in me settles. It's not excitement for excitement's sake. It's something quieter, almost instinctive, like my mind recognizing your presence before I even put words to it. You have this way of moving through the world with a calm that doesn't come from ease, but from endurance, and that calmness draws me closer, almost without permission. There's a softness in the way you speak that feels like someone who learned to choose her words carefully, not because she's afraid to be loud, but because she understands the power of saying only what matters. That restraint, that quiet confidence, that depth behind your eyes, it's what makes me lean in. It's what makes me want to listen to you longer. Sometimes, when you turn your head a certain way or pause before responding, I can see the traces of past battles you never bragged about, the losses you mourned privately, the responsibilities you carried without complaint, and somehow, all of that created a woman with a steadiness I didn't know I needed until I felt it. You don't realize this about yourself, but everything in you is shaped, not polished, not perfected, not rehearsed, but shaped by life in a way that makes you irresistible to someone like me. You have texture. You have history. You have intention where others have impulse, and I find myself drawn to that like a man, recognizing something rare in a world full of noise. To be honest with you, I don't want the polished version of you, the one you think is easier for someone to love. I don't want the woman who tries to hide her past or her scars or her softness. I want the woman who has been shaped by life, chapter after chapter, mistake after mistake, triumph after triumph. I want the woman who learned to stay standing even when she didn't feel strong. I want the woman who laughs more carefully now, but laughs with more meaning. And when you look back at me, really look, there's a moment where I feel you letting your guard down, even if it's only for a breath. That moment is everything, because it tells me you're not uninterested. You're just cautious. You've lived long enough to know that intimacy without presence means nothing, and presence without sincerity breaks more than it builds. But you don't have to worry about that with me. I'm right here. I'm listening. And I'm choosing to stay. Let me tell you something quietly, so it reaches the part of you that's still learning how to trust again. Everything about the way you exist in a room pulls me toward you. Your eyes, your voice, the way you hold yourself, the way you've lived enough life to know what genuinely matters, these are the things that make me want to keep moving closer. And there's something else I need you to hear. Something I won't say lightly. I'm choosing you not just in theory, not just in admiration, but in the quiet, steady way a grown man chooses a woman he respects, desires, and wants to walk beside. Stay with me a little longer. I want you to hear this next part clearly. Look at me for a second. You don't have to say anything, just listen. I want you to understand this without uncertainty, without questioning yourself the moment the words settle. I'm choosing you, not for who you were when life was easier, not for who you might become if you worked harder, or changed, or tried to be anything other than what you are right now. I'm choosing the woman standing in front of me, in her fullness, her flaws, her history, her strength, her softness. The woman who lived enough life to know what commitment truly requires. The woman who doesn't ask for attention but commands it with her presence alone. The woman who doesn't chase love but deserves a love that walks directly toward her. There is something undeniably grounding about you. Something that pulls me forward with a steadiness I didn't expect to feel again at this stage of my life. You carry a gravity, quiet, subtle, powerful, that makes me want to match your pace, not rush ahead, not fall behind. You make me want to move in rhythm with you, step for step, breath for breath. And I need you to know, this isn't infatuation. Infatuation is loud. It burns fast. It collapses under its own weight. What I feel with you is nothing like that. It's slower, warmer, anchored in a way that feels like truth rather than impulse. It's the kind of feeling a man gets when he's finally come face to face with someone he doesn't want to lose. You may think your life has already been written, that the chapters worth reading have already passed. But standing here with you, listening to your voice, seeing the way your presence softens a room, I can tell you with certainty that you are in the most beautiful chapter of your life, even if you haven't realized it yet. And I want to be part of it. Not to lead you, not to follow you, but to walk beside you, with a steadiness you can rely on. I want the ordinary days with you, the quiet mornings, the shared spaces, the comfortable silences. I want the simplicity of companionship with a woman who doesn't perform, who doesn't pretend, who doesn't hide her truth because she finally trusts the man standing beside her. You don't have to prove anything to me. You never did. What I'm offering isn't perfection. It's presence. And if you let me, I'll stay. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a consistent, steady love that doesn't leave when life gets real. Stay with me a little longer. There's more. I want to show you what a future together could actually feel like. Stay with me. I want you to feel this part not because it sounds romantic, but because it's the truth of what I want with you, in the quietest, most grounded sense of the word. When I told you I choose you, I wasn't making some dramatic declaration. I was telling you what my life has been quietly moving toward. And now, I want you to see the future I see when I look at you. It's not built on fantasy. It's not built on trying to recreate youth or chase something loud to prove anything. It's built on something far simpler, far steadier, something two grown souls build when they've lived enough life to understand what truly matters. I imagine us walking side by side, not because we're trying to impress the world, but because being next to you feels like the most natural place I could be. There's something about your energy, your calm, your certainty, your lived-in softness that makes me want to match your pace. Not ahead, not behind, with you, right where you are. I can see the small moments with you so clearly. The slow mornings where we don't rush to fill the silence, where the quiet is comfortable because it's shared. The evenings where we cook together or sit at the table long after the dishes are done, talking about the things that shaped us, or sitting in silence, because sometimes silence tells the truth better than words. I can see the subtle gestures, the kind of intimacy that doesn't need to announce itself. Your hand brushing mine, your voice dropping to that softer tone you use when you let someone in. Your laughter, not loud, but warm, the kind that comes from a place of safety. That's what I want with you. Not a love that needs to be performed for the world. A love that breathes, that settles, that understands. A connection where we don't have to be anything other than the versions of ourselves that life has sculpted. I want the ordinary days, the grocery store runs, the shared cup of coffee, the soft conversations before bed, the simplicity of knowing that when I turn to my left, you're there, not because you feel obligated, but because you want to be. And I don't want you to think this vision is one-sided. I don't imagine myself leading you into it, or pulling you into something you're unsure of. I imagine you choosing it with the same quiet certainty I feel now. Because when two people who have lived as much as we have find each other at this stage, the connection isn't rushed, it's understood. It settles into the bones, into the rhythm of daily life, into the parts of yourself you thought no one would ever notice. I want the kind of companionship that doesn't need to fix everything, the kind that sits beside you when you're quiet and doesn't ask you to explain, the kind that listens without trying to solve, holds space without trying to change, and loves without demanding proof. A partnership where two people walk into the future not trying to rewrite the past but understanding that every chapter shaped the person sitting in front of them. You've carried so much alone. You've been the anchor for so many people who drifted in and out of your life without staying long enough to understand the depth of your heart. But I'm not interested in drifting. I'm not here for a moment. I'm here because your presence makes sense to me in a way that nothing rushed or superficial ever could. And if you allow it, if you let this connection unfold, I want to build something steady with you. Something real. Something that lasts not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. I want you to know you don't have to walk forward alone anymore. Not unless you want to. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. There's more I want to promise you, but not in the dramatic, sweeping way people sometimes talk about love. I want to tell you what I can offer with the steadiness of a man who means every word. Stay with me. I'm not finished. You don't need another man promising you forever. You don't need someone telling you he'll fix everything or take away every burden. Life doesn't work like that, and you're too wise, too experienced, too beautifully grounded to fall for empty words. That's why I want to be honest with you in a way that only someone who truly respects you would be. I'm not offering perfection. I'm offering presence. There's a difference. Presence doesn't fade when things get real. Presence doesn't pull away when emotions get complicated or when the quiet moments stretch longer than expected. Presence doesn't demand you hide your fears, your tiredness, your history, or the softer parts of your heart that have been overlooked for years. I want to be the man who stays steady beside you, not above, not below, not leading, not following, simply beside. You've spent so many